Eyes up, YouTube. Are you tired of getting kicked out of LFG because they call you a noob on the new Equilibrium dungeon? Well, I'm here to show you exactly how to do it. Whether you're a solo player or whether you're at the mercy of LFG, I'm going to help you out. So this is a full Equilibrium dungeon guide. Before we start though, I will say this. If you guys want to join the Discord, the link is in the description below. We've been taking tons of Guardians through their first Equilibrium dungeon. All of the solo players have come out of the woodwork and we are playing together and having a lot of fun. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get right into the video. So in the opening area of the dungeon when you first load in, this is where you're going to be. Now, you don't have to kill any of the enemies that spawn up here. Since we were helping a fellow clanmate go through the dungeon for the first time, we ended up clearing out all these enemies, but you really don't have to. Once you get to this part though, all you need to do is jump up, turn to your left, and go down to the waterfall. Then follow the path here on the screen. Once you get to this opening, you have two choices. You can either eager edge all the way across. You really don't even need eager edge, you can just make the jump. Or if you turn to your right, there is a dedicated path to go down that leads you right into this room. Now, in order to get the encounter ready, you do need to kill two behemoths. Once both behemoths are eliminated, then you can go ahead and start the encounter. Before we get into the encounter though, I do want to take a moment to explain a few things about this encounter that can really help you when it comes to your LFG experience. There are 3 spots on this map where the Cabal drop pods will drop, and that is the quickest way to die. And I put the location of those drop pods on the screen now. Now, you do also have 3 snipers that can spawn up in this encounter. So here's the location for the first sniper, second sniper, and third sniper. The snipers aren't much of an issue unless you're doing this with more feats active. However, they can be annoying, so you can always look out for them, especially if you're doing this with 2 guardians or 3 guardians. You can have someone that looks out for the snipers just to take care of them so you guys aren't getting sniped from behind. Once you've rallied the flag and your fire team is ready to go, in order to start the encounter, you just go to the big ship in the middle of the room. You're going to go ahead and interact with the board harvester. Once you do that, the enemies will spawn. Now, the starting enemies that spawn, you need to kill each and every single one of them. There's not a lot of them. Once you do, you'll have a Cabal drop pod that brings down a Nameless Apprentice. Once the Nameless Apprentice comes down, you need to bait him over to any one of the 3 antennas that are located on the outskirts of the map. You want to stay close to him so he can start his attack. Once he starts his attack, you activate the antenna. He'll blow up on the antenna, which will allow you to drop the shields on the doors. Then you're going to take one of the pikes and follow the path that I set out here. Now, remember that the Blight spawns or the Taken spawns to give you the Gathering Shadow buff, they are somewhat RNG. Just keep in mind that you have plenty of time. The only time you're in danger here is if you miss a Blight. It's okay to take your time. If you have no feats active, it's not a timed encounter. It gives you an opportunity to really learn where the spawn points are, so don't freak out. Once you've acquired 6 of the pools total, it'll change your buff from Gathering Shadow and it'll max it out to Shadow Novice. Once you've acquired the Shadow Novice buff, you now have a timer on this buff. You have 45 seconds to begin with, which is more than enough time to break the shields on all of the Nameless Apprentices. Once you get out of the Sparrow section and you have the buff, you want to find the first Nameless Apprentice that you can. Use your grenade ability with the buff active on the Nameless Apprentice. This will drop a pool on the floor that can refresh your buff as well, but will also spawn behemoths. Now, if you're running this in a fire team, it's a good idea to have some of your other fire team members kill these behemoths, or you guys can tackle them together because they can get overwhelming. However, they're not too lethal. The main goal here after you get the buff is to, 1, stay alive. But even if you do die, it's okay, you can just go rebuff. Once all 6 Nameless Apprentices have been killed, you'll have 3 Colossus Behemoths that spawn. Those Colossus Behemoths are the main targets once these Nameless Apprentices have been killed. Again, please take my warning from the beginning of the video and watch out for the Cabal drop pods, because as you can see here, both of these Guardians were pretty far away from where the drop pod drops, and they still ended up dying. Now, we did this on purpose to show you guys for the case of the video, so just keep that in mind. All you need to do at this point is target every single behemoth on the field. Make sure that you kill them, and once you've killed every behemoth, the encounter will end. The way to get to the next encounter is you go to the ship in the middle, you interact with Board Harvester, you'll get a mini cutscene, and it'll teleport you to the first traversal area. During this traversal area, you don't really have to kill any of the enemies whatsoever, but if you want to for the experience, you're more than welcome to. If you don't want to look like a noob, just run past all the enemies. But just follow the path that we take here on the screen, and you guys will be good to go. Once you approach this section, you're coming up upon the first collectible. I did want to include that in this video as well. So all you have to do is drop down at the edge here, and by the second pillar, you'll find the first collectible. After this, just go back up and follow the path that we take. Once you get to this room, there's going to be 3 fuses that you need to shoot in order to open the blast doors. The first fuse is located here, second fuse right across, and then the third and last fuse up top. Once you do this, the blast doors will open. I highly suggest jumping from the left because the wind from the hyperspeed will push you to the right. If you want an easier time getting across, you can definitely use Eager Edge as it just zooms you right across the gap. Or if you have your Praxic Blade, you can just swing at the end to make it over. Once you jump across and you kill everything in the main room, you're going to head back out and go to the left. This is where you're going to find a couple of regular enemies that you can shoot. You can kill them or you can leave them alive, but the main thing here is that you shoot the fuse on the side of the wall. Shooting that fuse will open up the red door and allow you to shoot the next fuse. And this will allow you to traverse into the second encounter. Now, for those of you that do want the first secret chest, it is located exactly where I'm standing. You jump up onto this platform, turn around, and then your first secret chest is just one hop right over. You're then going to continue down to this path. Now, these blast doors will kill you if you stand in front of them, as we showcased here. Also, after you jump down and you slide, there will be a turret behind you. It's really not too deadly, but if you do want to turn around and shoot it, you definitely can do so. I find that to be a really good thing to do in preparation for tackling this dungeon with higher feats. Now, if you want to troll your LFG fire team, shoot the glass. It'll blow up and suck them out and kill them. Hopefully you don't get kicked for this one. Now, once you've made it to this part, you've officially made it into the second encounter, which is the first boss you're going to have to fight during the dungeon. But the main things you're going to have to understand here for this encounter is you are going to have to worry about the same buff from the first encounter with a little bit more mechanics added to it, but nothing too crazy. The way you start this encounter is by shooting the fuse behind you, dropping down, and then simply just shooting the boss. Once the boss terrifies you with his double sabers, which looks freaking awesome by the way, great job Bungie. You're gonna have to kite him around for a little bit, and you're at the mercy of the AI here, because you have to wait by these doors to see which ones the Cabal are gonna come out of in order for them to open. Once you do that, your first order of business is to try to get this buff maxed out as much as possible. You're almost guaranteed to have a Scion spawn in the hallway, which will give you the first stack of your buff. Then when you go into the room, the shielded enemies will drop a higher stack of the buff. What I like to do is just come back out into this hallway, because the Scions will spawn out of these blast doors. And once you do that, you can just simply wait here, or you can move around to see if you have one in another part of the hallway to get the last part of the buff. Once you've maxed out your Shadow Apprentice, you're going to go into these rooms and you're going to be looking for these taken panels. You want to make sure that you hit all 3 taken panels within a certain amount of time in order to activate them. Once you do that, the 3 lights in the room will turn green and you'll know that you've done it correctly. Then you can move on to the second and the third room. Now, you'll always have Scions patrolling the hallway, which will allow you to rebuff. But if you need a rebuff really quick, you can go into the room and kill the shielded enemy, which will give you your buff back. Another piece of important information that I do want to mention is if you have the Harrow's Decree buff under your Shadow Apprentice bar, boss will follow you into whatever room that you're in and he'll do his attack, which is a wind-up attack that will blast you. It hurts you a lot, but it doesn't necessarily kill you. But there are a couple ways to deal with this. The first way to deal with it is to simply run away. The second way to deal with it is you can block with your saber. If you're not using a saber, then you can use the grenade ability to break his attack and stop him from doing it. Now, once you've activated all of the taken platforms in every single room, you'll get an audio cue that lets you know it's time to go back to the middle, so this way we can start the process of getting to DPS. Now, the boss will automatically spawn to the middle and do his blast attack. This is where you can block it or do whatever you want to. After that, you want to shoot the fuses on each side. Start with one side first, and you want to bait the boss into the trap. Once the boss comes out of the trap, you want to hit him with the darkness ability, and then proceed to the next one. This will take more of his shield off and allow you to get to DPS a lot faster than having to amplify a fuse. Now, once it's time for DPS, I highly suggest to use something that's going to help keep you alive, especially at close range, because he is a close range boss. I usually like to use Song of Flame Warlock as well as the Saber, so that way you can go ahead and continuously ignite him over and over. I will leave a dim link in the description below to the build that I personally use when I do this dungeon solo. If you don't one-phase him, it's okay, it's just a rinse and repeat. But if you do end up one-phasing him, the boss is going to break this shielded door. You're going to have to follow him down to this platform. The moment you set foot on the platform, his shield will go away and it'll be DPS. You'll have a certain amount of time in order to kill him here. Now, yes, I am using the illegal Void build. I was testing it out during this video, so don't crucify me in the comments. If you fail to kill the boss on this platform, don't worry, it's not the end of your run. You're going to have to activate the fuses in order to break his shield manually if you don't kill him in time. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Similar to getting to DPS phase, you're going to need to activate this floor panel. You do that by shooting the fuse, the floor panel will open, and you'll bait the boss into it. However, this will not be enough to break his shield fully. So once the boss goes in there, you're also going to want to come over here and use the buff to activate these 3 taken platforms. Once you activate those 3 taken platforms, this fuse will go active. You can bait the boss into it, and once he attacks it, if you hit him with the taken ability afterwards, then you should have enough to get back to DPS. If it's not, then you can activate the fuse here on the other side and bait him into that in order to get him to DPS. Once you've killed the boss, there's going to be a taken buff that spawns in the middle of the room. You want to grab the buff from that. Now, if it doesn't give you the full buff, just wait until it despawns and respawns again, and you will have the full buff. Once you get the full buff, you're going to activate the 2 taken knobs on both sides, and that will give you the activate button. Once you click the activate button, get ready for the coolest thing you've ever seen in Destiny. Yeah, hyperdrive. Anyway, you're going to jump over onto these platforms. Your target platform is going to be the one all the way to the far right. Once you go over here, there's going to be 2 panels on the wall that you're going to have to activate in order to open the blast door. The second panel, you have to jump a little bit and activate it while you're jumping, so just keep that in mind. Once you activate that, you're officially moving into the next traversal area. So just follow the path that we take here, and I'll be back when there's something to do. Once you get into this area, you need to kill the behemoth. This is the only enemy that matters here because he's the one that allows you to activate the lift. Once you kill the behemoth, you can come over here and activate the cranes. Now, the correct way to go is to go to the cranes on the right. However, there is another collectible in this room. So if you instead go to the cranes on the left and follow this path here, you'll get to the second collectible. Now, this collectible is hidden beneath the second ship. So as you see here, we drop down, go to the second ship, and if you look in this container, you'll find the second collectible. At this point, you just want to get back onto the ships, jump back across over the platform, and then we're going to go the correct way. So just follow the path that we take here, and this will take you to the next secret chest and the final collectible. Once you get to this room, you're going to be faced with a couple of behemoths. Now, you don't actually have to kill them, but they can be very annoying, so I do highly suggest at least taking care of them. Once you kill the second behemoth, you're going to drop down below this platform, and this is where we're going to be able to find the last and final collectible. Once you get down here, you're going to go directly to your right. You're going to break the vent, and your collectible will be behind this box. Now, the correct path is to always look for the panels that have those 2 lights at the bottom. This is going to be the way to go to the final encounter. So just follow the path that I take here, and it'll take you into the next jumping puzzle. Once you open these doors, if you go directly to your left, you'll find the second secret chest. Now, in this room, you need to make sure that you get your Shadow Apprentice buff before you do anything else. You're going to have 2 of these enemies spawning on both sides, and once you kill them, they'll drop the pool. You need to kill 4 of these enemies total in order to max out your buff. Once you've maxed out your buff, you're going to jump up on this platform first. You're going to take a wide jump onto this, and you're going to keep following the path that I take here in order to open up the door for the next encounter. Once you get up here, if you look to your left, there's a taken panel. You're going to hit that with the buff, and it's going to open up the blast doors. Then you simply just need to get onto this platform and go up. Once you get up here, you're going to break the vent to your right and drop down. Once you get in here, again, the behemoths can be really annoying, so we do like to take care of them, but you can just run past them. Once you get to this room, you do have to have all 3 guardians available in order for you to open the next door. Once this door opens, you're going to have 2 very, very tanky enemies to deal with, but they're not too bad. Now once you kill them, this door will open, and this is going to be the final boss encounter of the dungeon. Once the dialogue ends, you'll have the option to open the door, and when you do, you're going to fight the first human boss we've ever fought in Destiny. The most important thing you need to do when you first start this encounter is you need to go and look for all of these enemies with the backpacks. The lackeys. These are going to drop the buff. You need to kill at least 3 of them as quickly as you possibly can to get 3 stacks of the buff. Once you have the Shadow Novice buff, you can now break the shield on the Nameless Apprentice, same as the first encounter. Once you kill the Nameless Apprentice, you can then go ahead and shoot the taken orb in the middle behind the boss. This will extend your time in the room. For every orb that you shoot, you'll get a 10-second extension. So that way you teleport less times. The reason for this is because every time you do teleport between realms, the boss will put down another electric pylon, and this will start during DPS. You want to make sure you avoid that as much as possible, so that way your DPS is a lot cleaner and easier to do. Now, once you do get teleported, you're going to have a shadow version of the boss with the same taken orbs behind him. The same mechanics are present here. Every time you kill a taken orb on the tablet, you'll extend your time in this area for 10 seconds. Now, there's going to be a total of 6 blistered shadows that are going to be around the entire map, and every time you kill one of them, it's going to unlock one of those taken orbs. 2 of those blistered shadows are going to be right in the beginning. There's going to be one on the platform when you spawn in. There's going to be one above that platform. Now, there is a way to create platforms to get up to the one up top, but to be honest, it's very annoying. So what I like to do is to stay in the middle, look for that blistered shadow to kill it as quickly as we possibly can. So that way we can kill 2 of those taken orbs as quickly as possible and extend our timer in this realm. Once you take care of the first 2 blistered shadows, then you want to come to this outer ring of the map. This is where you're going to be looking for the other blistered shadows. When you do find the blistered shadows, you have 2 options. You can choose to either kill them, or if you have the full shadow buff, Shadow Master, then you can go ahead and compel them. Compelling them will add 2 to 3 seconds to your DPS timer when you go to DPS the boss. Killing them will extend the white part of Dredgen Seer's health bar. If you're doing this in a fire team, I highly suggest to compel the first shadow, as you'll probably have the full master buff when you spawn into the taken room. However, if you're doing this solo, I suggest to at least compel 2 of the shadows and kill the rest. You're gonna have to test your DPS though. If you don't do enough damage to Dredge and Seer during your DPS phase to match the white bar that you set, Dredge and Seer will brain down lightning from every single lightning pylon in the room. This will kill you very quickly, unless you go to the edge of the room and then you have to wait to be teleported into the Taken Realm to go ahead and get your buff and then take care of those pylons. Once you've taken care of all of the Taken Orbs, the 6 in the Taken Realm, as well as the 6 in the main boss room, depending on where you are, the boss will teleport you back to the main room, because this is the room for DPS, and your DPS timer will officially start. This will be indicated under your shadow buff called Seer's Weakness. That's going to be your DPS timer. That's going to tell you how much time you have left to do damage and when you need to get out. Now, if you don't do enough damage to hit the white bar, you definitely want to get out, probably around the 1 second mark. If you do enough damage to get rid of that white bar, then you can stick around and push your damage even further. If you don't one-phase the boss here, like we didn't, it's just a rinse and repeat of the encounter, and you do everything again. However, I will say, when you get teleported to the Taken Realm, you can probably just go ahead and kill every single one of those shadows to make time faster on your second go-around. Now, I want to give a brief explanation of how to handle these electric pylons that come down from the map. Every time you teleport into the room, there's one that's going to be there anyway. What you want to do is go around and find the Taken knobs. They're going to be glowing, and that's going to let you know that you can go ahead and use the Force ability on them. The electric pylon will actually retreat and go back to its original position, meaning that it's not activated anymore. If you don't do enough damage to the white bar, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to have to do this to every single pylon in the room. So you're just going to have to get used to those different spots that they're located in, but they're very, very easy to see. So don't get overwhelmed, just take it little by little. Remember, practice makes perfect, so you're not going to get this overnight, and just watching one video isn't going to make you a master. Now, if you're anything like me and you don't want to be at the mercy of LFG, join our Discord channel. We have a lot of Guardians in there who have been joining recently. We're just chill gamers who love to play the game of Destiny, and I've always been a Sherpa for raids, dungeons, and every kind of encounter that I can think of. I just never did YouTube before. If you guys want to join the Discord, we'll take you through your first run. I'm going to be putting up events for teaching runs on every different types of encounters, raids, and dungeons included. We've also started a new clan, so you guys can join that as well. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments section below what you thought of my first full dungeon guide video. It was really fun to make, but it definitely took a lot of work, so a subscription would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, and have a great day. Goodbye!